All right, so you've given us this first chapter, the start of a book, and asked us to dive in.
Yeah.
So let's crack this thing open and see what we can find.
It's really interesting because the author starts with like the most mundane setting imaginable.
Yeah.
We're introduced to the Dursleys.
Right.
This family that practically screams ordinary.
They do.
But they're like the perfect foil for what's about to unfold.
Yeah, it's almost like a drill company, perfectly trimmed hedges.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like they're trying to be boring.
That's right. The author goes to great lengths to establish them as like the epitome of normalcy. Mr. Dursley, he's obsessed with routine.
Right.
Hates anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
And even his job at Grunning's, this firm that makes drills, speaks to this fixation on the practical and the
boring.
Well, yeah, the utterly...
Our drill company. Okay, that makes even me feel a little stifled. But then there's Mrs. Dursley, right? Always peeking out from behind the curtains.
Oh, yeah.
Fussed with appearance.
Yes, and what the neighbors think.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Desperately trying to project this image of perfect normalcy.
Right, and then, of course, we can't forget their son Dudley, the...
oh, yes.
The spoiled child.
Yes.
Throwing tantrums.
Absolutely.
Demanding his way.
Yeah.
So we've got this, like, picture-perfect, or should I say perfectly boring family?
Right.
But like any good story, there's something lurking beneath the surface.
Oh, yeah.
The Dursleys have a secret.
They do.
A connection to a world that terrifies them.
Yes.
The world of the Potters.
And this secret is key because it highlights like the central conflict of the story.
Okay.
The clash between the ordinary and the extraordinary.
Right.
The Dursleys represent everything conventional and mundane.
Right.
Whereas the Potters, even in their absence, they embody the magic and mystery.
Yeah.
That the Dursleys desperately try to repress.
It's like they're building a fortress against anything imaginative or whimsical.
Exactly. And that makes the intrusion of magic all the more striking.
The author does this brilliant job of slowly introducing these elements of the fantastical. Starting with subtle hints, like the cat reading a map.
Oh, come on.
Which Mr. Dursley quickly dismisses.
A cat reading? That's weird, even for me.
No, right?
Yeah.
But these little oddities, they continue to pop up.
Yeah.
Mr. Dursley sees people in cloaks whispering about the Potters.
Right.
Then there's the news report about owls flying in daylight. And showers of shooting stars.
Okay, so it's not just the cat.
Right.
There's this, like, building sense of unease.
Yeah.
That culminates in, well, Dumbledore just showing up on Privet Drive.
Right.
Talk about an entrance. I mean, he appears out of thin air with his long robes and twinkling eyes.
Yeah.
Like he just stepped out of a fairy tale.
Yeah, and Dumbledore's arrival isn't just a plot device.
Okay.
It's a symbolic moment.
Okay.
He embodies the magical world crashing into the mundane.
Right.
His casual use of magic, like extinguishing the streetlights with the put-outer,
right,
instantly shatters the Dursleys' carefully constructed reality.
It's like their worst nightmare coming true.
It is.
And then to make matters worse, Professor McGonagall shows up disguised as a cat.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
Her transformation from a tabby cat perched on the Dursleys' wall into this stern-looking witch.
Yeah.
It's another example of how the author blends the magical and the mundane,
right,
highlighting the collision of these two worlds.
And their conversation reveals some pretty heavy news.
It does.
Lily and James Potter are dead.
Yes.
And their son Harry has somehow survived Voldemort's attack.
This is where the story takes a darker turn.
Yeah.
We learn that there's a real threat in this magical world, a darkness that even the Dursleys can't ignore.
Right.
The joy and celebration surrounding Voldemort's supposed demise is overshadowed by the tragedy of the Potters' deaths.
Yeah, the weight of that loss is palpable.
Yeah.
Even in this early stage of the story.
Absolutely.
But then we have Harry's dramatic arrival. Hagrid shows up on a flying motorcycle.
I know.
With baby Harry bundled up in blankets.
Hagrid's entrance is such a great juxtaposition. Here's this half-giant,
right,
a creature straight out of the magical world,
yeah,
riding this fantastical vehicle,
right,
and arriving in like the most ordinary of suburban settings.
Yeah.
It perfectly encapsulates the clash between the world the Dursleys know
right,
and the one they fear.
Yeah, and then there's the scar.
Yes.
This lightning-shaped mark on Harry's forehead,
right,
which Dumbledore says is a reminder of Voldemort's attack.
The scar is more than just a physical mark.
Right.
It sets Harry apart,
Okay.
making him instantly recognizable.
Yeah.
It's a visual reminder of his past trauma
Okay.
and a foreshadowing of his connection to Voldemort.
Right.
This connection is going to define Harry's future, whether he likes it or not.
So we've got baby Harry marked by this dark event,
Yes.
arriving on the doorstep of the Dursleys,
I know.
who are already terrified of anything remotely magical. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, that's exactly what we're about to find out.
Yeah.
The chapter ends with Dumbledore leaving Harry with the Dursleys,
Okay.
along with a letter explaining everything.
Uh-huh.
Hagrid, Professor McGonagall, and Dumbledore are heartbroken.
Right.
But they believe this is the safest place for Harry,
Okay.
away from the attention that will inevitably follow him.
But WHY leave him with the Dursleys.
Right.
It seems cruel given how they react to even the mention of magic.
Yeah.
What's the logic there?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
And it's a question that goes to the heart of Dumbledore's character
Okay.
and the moral complexities of the story.
All right.
He's making a decision based on what he believes is best for Harry's survival.
Uh-huh.
But it comes at a cost.
Yeah.
He's essentially condemning Harry to a childhood with people who don't understand him,
Right.
who might even actively try to suppress his magic.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack.
It is.
This is definitely more than just a simple children's story. There's a real depth to it, even in this first chapter.
And that's what makes it so compelling.
Yeah.
The author has woven together elements of mystery fantasy and even social commentary to create a narrative that is both engaging and thought-provoking.
This has been quite the introduction.
It has.
We've gone from a seemingly boring family to a world of magic danger and a baby with a mysterious destiny.
I know.
I can't wait to see what happens next.
Me too. And I have a feeling we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
This first chapter is like a spell being cast,
Yeah.
drawing us into a world where the ordinary and the extraordinary collide.
All right, let's take a quick breath and then dive into the next part of this deep dive.
That's good.
Okay, so we've established that Dumbledore's decision to leave Harry with the Dursleys is a bit of a moral head-scratcher.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a decision fraught with ethical complexity.
Right.
Dumbledore is prioritizing Harry's safety,
Okay.
believing that the blood protection offered by Petunia,
Right.
Lily's sister, will keep him safe from Voldemort.
Right.
However, he's also condemning Harry to a loveless, potentially abusive childhood.
It makes you question whether the ends justify the means, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you think about how the Dursleys have already shown a complete disdain for anything related to magic.
Precisely.
Oh.
And this sets up like a fascinating dynamic.
Okay.
Harry, who embodies the extraordinary,
Right.
is being forced into this environment
Right.
that represents everything conventional and mundane.
Right.
It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Speaking of fitting in, the author does a great job of using setting to reinforce this theme of conformity versus individuality.
Yeah.
Take the Dursleys' house on Privet Drive.
Oh, yeah.
It's described as silent and tidy, the very last place you would expect astonishing things to happen.
Yes. Privet Drive is a symbol of like stifling normalcy,
Yeah.
a place where difference is unwelcome.
Right.
It's no coincidence that it's located in a neighborhood where everything is identical,
Yeah.
from the houses to the lawns.
Even the name Privet Drive evokes this sense of restriction.
Yeah.
Like a neatly trimmed hedge, boxing everything in. It's the perfect setting for a family that's so determined to fit in and avoid anything out of the ordinary.
Exactly. And that makes the arrival of magic all the more disruptive.
Right.
It's like throwing a grenade into this carefully constructed world of order and predictability.
So the Dursleys fear anything unusual,
They do.
but the arrival of magic completely disrupts their world.
Wow.
It starts subtly with those odd occurrences we discussed earlier,
Yes.
but it culminates in Dumbledore's appearance.
Right.
Dumbledore, with his flamboyant attire and casual use of magic,
Yep.
represents everything the Dursleys loathe. He's a walking, talking embodiment of everything they try to deny and repress.
He is.
He even calls them out on their prejudice against magic, saying, "You should be proud of your sister. She was a wonderful, gifted witch."
That line is so important.
Yeah.
Because it underscores the Dursleys' deep-seated resentment. They're not just indifferent to magic.
Right.
They're actively hostile towards it because it represents something they can't control or understand.
It's like magic is a threat to their carefully constructed identity.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that fear is only going to intensify
Yeah.
when they realize that Harry, the boy they're now forced to raise, is a wizard.
I mean, they can barely tolerate the mere mention of magic.
Right.
How are they going to handle Harry's inherent magical abilities when they inevitably manifest?
That's the question that hangs over the entire chapter,
Right.
creating this delicious tension.
Yeah.
We know that Harry is destined for greatness, that he's the boy who lived.
Right.
But how will he navigate this hostile environment?
Right.
How will he discover his true identity when the people raising him are determined to squash anything remotely magical?
It's like a ticking time bomb.
It is.
You can't suppress something as powerful as magic forever.
Exactly. And that's what makes this ending so compelling.
Right.
The author leaves us with this sense of foreboding, knowing that Harry's life for the Dursleys is not going to be easy.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a line that foreshadows the difficulties to come.
Okay.
Hagrid says that Harry would spend the next few weeks being prodded and pinched by his cousin Dudley.
Oh, poor Harry.
I know.
It sounds like he's in for a rough time.
It definitely suggests that the Dursleys will try to force Harry into their mold of normalcy,
Yeah.
to suppress his magic and make him conform to their narrow view of the world.
But it's bound to backfire, right? I mean, you can't just extinguish someone's true nature.
Right.
Especially when it's something as powerful as magic.
Right, and that's what creates the central conflict of the series.
Okay.
It's not just about good versus evil, but also about individuality versus conformity,
Right.
acceptance versus denial.
And let's not forget the emotional weight of the situation.
Oh, yeah.
Harry is an orphan robbed of his parents and thrust into this unloving environment.
Absolutely.
It's heartbreaking.
And the author doesn't shy away from the emotional complexity. Hagrid's grief over the Potters' deaths is raw and genuine.
Yeah.
When he says goodbye to Harry, he's practically sobbing.
Ah.
Lily and James dead, and poor little Harry off to live with muggles.
It's a reminder that this is a story about loss,
Yeah.
about the lasting impact of trauma, and about finding your place in the world when everything you know has been ripped away.
And it's all set against the backdrop of this extraordinary world of magic
Right.
that we've only just begun to glimpse.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly powerful opening chapter
It is.
that sets the stage for an epic journey.
I think one of the things that makes this so captivating
Yeah.
is that blend of the magical and the mundane. You have these fantastical elements like flying motorcycles and talking cats.
Right.
But they're happening in the most ordinary of settings.
That juxtaposition is so effective.
Yeah.
It makes the magic feel more tangible, more real.
Right.
Because it's intruding into a world that we recognize.
Right.
It's like the author is saying that magic can exist anywhere,
Yeah.
even in the most mundane corners of our lives.
That's fascinating. It makes you wonder if there's magic lurking beneath the surface of our own everyday lives.
Yeah,
Just waiting to be discovered.
exactly. And
Yeah.
that's the power of great storytelling.
Right.
It opens up our minds to new possibilities.
Yeah.
Makes us question what we think we know
Uh-huh.
and leaves us wanting more.
Speaking of wanting more, this chapter ends with a toast
Yes.
to Harry Potter, the boy who lived.
I love that line.
It's a celebration of his survival,
It is.
but it also feels like a promise,
Mm-hmm.
a foreshadowing of the extraordinary life that awaits him.
That toast is so significant.
It is.
It highlights the duality of Harry's existence.
Okay.
On one hand, he's just a baby,
Yeah.
vulnerable and alone.
Right.
But on the other hand, he's already a symbol of hope,
Yeah.
a legend in the making.
Right.
And this tension between his ordinary life with the Dursleys and his extraordinary destiny is what drives the narrative forward.
We've talked a lot about the Dursleys and their fear of magic.
We have.
But what about Dumbledore?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on his character and his motivations?
Dumbledore is a fascinating character,
He is.
and one that we'll continue to unpack throughout the series.
Yeah.
He's incredibly powerful and wise,
Right.
but he's also flawed and capable of making difficult, even morally ambiguous decisions.
Right.
He's not a simple hero figure.
Right.
He operates in shades of gray,
Yeah.
which makes him all the more compelling.
Yeah. He's definitely not your typical fairy tale wizard.
No.
He's got this air of mystery about him.
He does.
And you can sense that he's holding back information even from the other wizards.
That's right. He's a master strategist,
Yeah.
always thinking several steps ahead.
Right.
And that makes you wonder what he knows about Harry's destiny, that he's not revealing even to Hagrid and McGonagall.
It's like he's playing a long game,
Exactly.
carefully orchestrating events from behind the scenes.
And that adds another layer of intrigue to the story.
Right.
We're not just following Harry's journey.
Yeah.
We're also trying to figure out Dumbledore's game plan
Right.
and what it means for Harry's future.
This is getting really interesting. It's like we're peeling back the layers of an onion.
Yes.
And with each layer, we're uncovering new complexities and mysteries.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what makes this first chapter so effective.
Right.
It's not just setting up the plot.
Mhm.
It's introducing us to complex characters, compelling themes,
Right.
and a world that is both familiar and utterly magical.
Okay, I'm ready to dive even deeper. Let's move on to the next part of this deep dive and see what other insights we can uncover.
Sounds good.
You know, we've talked about the Dursleys and Dumbledore and Harry, but one thing that really stood out to me in this chapter were the owls. It's like they're more than just birds. They're almost heralding the arrival of magic. You know what I mean?
Right. It's like they're kind of these messengers from another realm,
Yeah.
and they're often seen as symbols of wisdom and mystery. And in this story, they're always like linked to moments of change or the arrival of like important news.
Yeah, and we see them throughout the chapter. It's like they're watching, they're observing.
Right, they're almost like signposts.
Yeah.
Guiding us through the narrative.
I'm going to be paying extra close attention to those owls as we go through this.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. What else is the author trying to tell us?
Right. What else is the author subtly woven into this like seemingly simple beginning?
Yeah.
We have this clash between the magical and the mundane, the hints of danger lurking beneath the surface of everyday life.
And these characters are so vividly drawn, even in this like brief introduction.
Oh, they are.
The Dursleys representing fear and conformity.
Yeah.
And Dumbledore embodying this power and mystery of the magical world.
Exactly.
It's like the author's giving us a roadmap.
Yeah.
But it's a roadmap with some like really tantalizing blank spaces.
It is. It's like they're sparking our curiosity, igniting our sense of wonder, and leaving us eager to discover what happens next.
Right. How will Harry navigate this world that both rejects him and desperately needs him?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is. We know he's destined for greatness. He's the boy who lived.
Right.
But how's he going to get there?
Yeah. How will his magic emerge?
Yeah.
Despite the Dursleys' attempts to suppress it.
What role will Dumbledore play in his journey?
Right. And what about that scar?
Yeah.
The mark that connects him to Voldemort.
So many questions.
The author has masterfully set the stage for like an epic journey.
This chapter, it's like a carefully crafted spell.
It is.
Drawing us into this world where anything is possible.
Absolutely.
We've barely scratched the surface.
We haven't.
And I'm already hooked.
Me too.
This has been an amazing deep dive.
It has.
It's incredible how much depth and complexity the author has packed into just this one chapter.
Yeah, I know. It's really amazing.
I'm ready to jump into the rest of the book and see what other secrets we can uncover.
Me too. I think this first chapter is like a spark.
Yeah.
Igniting our imaginations.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that the most extraordinary stories can begin in the most ordinary of places.
Right.
And that magic, if we're open to it, can be found in the most unexpected corners of our world.
So if you're listening and you've got this book in your hands, I encourage you to pay attention to those subtle details, those seemingly insignificant moments.
Yes.
You never know what magic you might find hidden within them. And remember, this is just the beginning. The real adventure is about to unfold.